Zelenskyy inaugurated a new Ukrainian embassy in Turkey, and a few hours ago, he met with President Erdogan.
Turkey has always supported Ukraine politically and militarily.
Slava Ukraine!
There are currently two different efforts to end the war between Ukraine and Russia. One is the meeting between the US and Russian delegation in Riyadh.
U.S. and Russian officials in Saudi Arabia meeting right now with a Russian delegation led by Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
The other is the critical summit in Ankara between Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Turkish President Erdogan.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation.
The immediate outcome of the talks in Riyadh is that the EU should join the peace process and even ease sanctions against Russia. It was also decided in Riyadh that Trump and Putin would meet in the near future. In Ankara, the capital of Turkey, there was a reaction that no one expected. President Erdogan stated that Ukraine's territorial integrity must be preserved and the Donbass region, including Crimea, must remain under Kyiv's control. For the first time, Erdogan's statements were a very clear message to Putin. The Donbass region is rich in minerals and natural resources, which the Russian leader dreams of. It is no secret that Putin wants to annex this region to Russia in exchange for 3 years of war. However, Erdogan has loudly warned against Putin's plan from Ankara and opposed Ukraine becoming a colonial state. If the Turkish leader's warning is not heeded, it is likely that the Ankara government will continue to support Ukraine, albeit on its own. So far, this is the first time that Erdogan and Putin have confronted each other so sharply. In Riyadh, the US side discussed military aid to Ukraine after meeting with the Russian delegation. The White House announced that they would continue this aid in exchange for 50% of Ukraine's natural resources. Trump has previously said that he would like Ukraine to repay US support by giving Washington access to the country's vast but unexplored rare earth minerals. However, the Ukrainian president was not keen on this proposal and flatly rejected it. The White House, for its part, criticized Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's refusal to sign an agreement that would give the United States access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, calling it short-sighted. So how could Zelenskyy potentially turn down military aid from the United States in one fell swoop? Did the Ukrainian leader's refusal have anything to do with the summit in Turkey? Could Erdogan's supportive messages to Ukraine have empowered Zelenskyy in this regard? Now, we will discover the answers to these critical questions together. We will explore what Turkey can do for Ukraine in the future. What agreements were signed between Erdogan and Zelenskyy after this critical summit? And what approaches the EU and the US will adopt to this rapprochement between Turkey and Ukraine? But first of all, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and give us a like to stay informed about our content. All this is completely free of charge. Now let's get started. First of all, let's dive into this strategic process that started with Erdogan's unexpected hosting of Zelenskyy. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan reiterated Ankara's commitment to Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty, which he said were non-negotiable. Speaking at a press conference in Ankara after his meeting with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy, Erdogan also emphasized that US President Donald Trump's peace move is in line with Turkey's policy since the full-scale war began 3 years ago. Erdogan said Turkey could be a good address for possible peace talks that could include Russia. He was referring to Turkey as an ideal host for possible peace talks on Russia's war against Ukraine, and could offer Ankara a platform for future negotiations. Erdogan also pointed to Turkey's previous mediation efforts, including the Black Sea Grain Agreement, which allows Ukraine's agricultural exports until Russia's withdrawal in 2023. The Turkish leader also focused on the fact that economic ties between the two countries would increase dramatically after this important summit. After the talks, it was reported that Ukraine aims to increase its trade volume with Turkey to $10 billion. Ukraine's first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy, Yulia Sviridenko, summarized this more clearly in her statement after her meeting with Turkish Trade Minister Ömer Bolat. Sviridenko confirmed that Kyiv and Ankara are interested in expanding bilateral trade and aim to increase bilateral trade from 6.2 billion to 10 billion in 2024. Exports from Ukraine to Turkey fell 6.8% year-on-year to 2.21 billion in 2024, while imports from Turkey fell 10.2% to $4.24 billion, the State Statistics Service reported. Turkey accounted for 5.3% of Ukraine's merchandise exports and 6.0% of its imports last year. The summit is likely to create an incredible economic network between the two countries. Turkish President Erdogan also emphasized that the dynamics will continue in a positive direction, sending messages that these planned economic relations with Ukraine will benefit both sides. Erdogan's remarks came after US and Russian delegations held preliminary talks in Saudi Arabia on a range of issues, including Ukraine. Erdogan was demonstrating both his support for Ukrainian sovereignty and that Turkey was not at odds with the United States on this issue. Moreover, another conclusion to be drawn from all these assessments that Erdogan made at the summit is that if Putin rejects the peace proposal put forward by Erdogan, Turkey will be more intensely involved in the process. When the question arises as to how Turkey can be more intensively involved in this process, the answer is the country's land, sea and air power capabilities, potential and military assets. Due to its geostrategic structure, Turkey can actually block Russia very easily in the Black Sea. Already since the beginning of the war, the Ankara government has not allowed Russian warships to pass through the Istanbul and Dardanelles Straits. Turkey derives this right to block them from the Montreux Convention on the Straits. Turkey has the power to end the war not only through its decision to prevent Russian warships from passing through the Straits, but also through its naval support for Ukraine. The sending of the Hetman Ivan Mazepa corvette to Ukraine has already proved the Ankara government's support for Kyiv. Now we may witness more Turkish naval support for Ukraine. In Erdogan's words, Crimea should be fully Ukraine's, and the necessary steps should be taken to achieve this. And the way to achieve this is through the Black Sea. Therefore, if Turkish leader Erdogan wants to prepare the ground for the return of Crimea to the Ukrainians, he needs to strengthen Kyiv's navy. Another possibility is Turkey's tariff on General Khalifa Haftar in Libya. Haftar, who was backed by Russia, was defeated by Turkish drones, troops and navy ships transported to Libya by Ankara. Turkey has the potential to achieve success against Russia in the Black Sea with a strategy similar to the Blue Homeland doctrine it implemented in Libya. We can understand this more clearly by looking at the incredible steps the Turkish Navy has recently taken. In the first week of 2025, the Turkish Defence Ministry announced the construction of 31 new warships to support the country's naval power projection. The projects include an aircraft carrier, an air defence destroyer, and a new class of submarines, all of which will be new additions to the Turkish Navy. Turkey's effort to modernise its navy and increase its naval power projection capabilities is part of the country's activist foreign policy and commitment to implementing an advanced defence strategy based on domestically produced weapons. Some reports indicate that Turkey has invested over US $8 billion to build new warships, setting a record in its naval construction program. The scale of these investments highlights an extremely new direction for the Turkish Navy. At the centre is the MUGEM project, Turkey's ambitious plan to develop a national aircraft carrier with a displacement of 60,000 tons, almost 3 times the size of its first LHD drone carrier, the TCG Anadolu. Aircraft carriers are often equated with great power status in the international system, and major naval powers such as the United States and China have several such units. They serve as symbolic symbols of naval diplomacy, serving political objectives, and are often deployed in remote theatres for deterrence and coercion in crises. The possible deployment of MUGEM would make Turkey one of the few countries in the world to operate a vessel of this size and power projection capability. In terms of development, MUGEM builds on the early success of Turkey's indigenously built amphibious assault ship TCG Anadolu, which is planned to host Turkish UCAVs such as Baykar TB3, Kızılelma, and the naval variant of the Hürjet. MUGEM is also expected to house advanced units of homegrown armed UAVs, including elite models being developed by Baykar Industries. Turkey's capabilities in five-country, first-generation warfare and a high level of interconnectedness between indigenous defence products remain key features of its advanced defence doctrine, and MUGEM is likely to showcase this expertise. This naval element is one of the main forces that can intimidate Russia in the Black Sea. Another naval element that will prevent Putin from confronting Erdogan in the Black Sea is the TF-2000 anti-aircraft destroyer. The TF-2000 guided missile destroyer is a project that has been under consideration since the early 2000s, and the project has regained momentum with Turkey's latest naval move. The Navy's air defence umbrella consists mainly of 40 km range SM-1 missiles mounted on G-class frigates from the 1980s. This model is key to Turkey's advanced defence doctrine and the broader defence network under the Steel Dome AI-powered layered air defence system. In addition to a range of anti-aircraft measures, the destroyer will host a 96-cell indigenous vertical launch system capable of launching a variety of advanced munitions. Given Turkey's realisation of the inability of the bulk of its naval fleet to engage advanced aircraft at great distances, the TF-2000 remains an integral part of modernising the Navy and providing coverage to the carrier strike group to be led by MUGEM. Turkey will have a very powerful missile destroyer in the Black Sea to confront Putin if Russia opposes peace and the talks between Erdogan and Zelenskyy. Another naval element that prevents Putin from confronting Erdogan in the Black Sea is the MİLDEN submarine. MİLDEN represents another milestone in Turkey's naval power projection, responding to the urgency of increasing security reach beyond coastal waters and modernising the existing submarine inventory. Turkey's submarine arsenal is largely based on German-designed models, albeit with some degree of local input. Turkey is seeking to localise domestic production and know-how in this area as part of its ongoing efforts to bring the remaining critical components of its weapons industry ashore. The project is expected to deliver the first units in 2030. Elements used in the Turkish Navy, including submarines, are supported by important missiles, armed with indigenous weapons such as the AKYA heavy torpedo, the Atmaka anti-ship missile, and soon the Gezgin cruise missile, which provide formidable strike capabilities. These weapons will enhance Turkey's anti-access area denial strategy and create a strong deterrent in the eastern Mediterranean. Turkey's submarine arsenal was largely based on German-designed models, albeit with some degree of local input. Erdogan has recently recognised the danger and has launched a nationalisation of the Turkish Navy. In effect, this is a message to Russian President Vladimir Putin that he is not alone in the Black Sea. In addition to naval moves, Erdogan has other options to send this message to Putin. One of them, as we mentioned, is the continuation of military support to Ukraine. This is because the side that keeps its inventory constantly new holds the advantage in the war. Erdogan is aware of this situation and may reassert the trump card of military aid to Ukraine against Putin. Turkey has already provided significant military aid to Ukraine since the beginning of the war. TB2 drones, Kirpi armoured vehicles, Cobra, and many other military vehicles and resources have flowed from Turkey to Ukraine. Now, Turkey and Ukraine's strategic partnership extends even further. For example, Baykar's Akıncı fighter jet and Kızılelma fighter jet use Ukrainian-made Ivchenko Progress engines. Kızılelma has even been called the Turkish bird with a Ukrainian heart. So not only is Turkey providing unilateral assistance, but Kyiv is also providing military cooperation for Ankara. However, the Ukrainian-Turkish bilateral defence partnership has room for expansion. With the first flight of the KAAN fighter jet, the two countries have started to be mentioned side by side in this regard. The jet was initially conceptualized and developed to replace the Turkish Air Force's aging F-16 fleet and support Turkey's self-sufficiency. However, the US decided to sell Turkey 40 new F-16s and equipment to upgrade dozens more. While the KAAN jet prototype currently runs on General Electric's F-110 engines that power the F-16s, Turkey aims to start using indigenous engines produced by TAI engine industries by 2028. However, Ukrainian ambassador to Turkey Vasil Bodnar recently stated that Ukraine not only wants to buy and use the KAAN jet, but that Ukrainian teams continue to work on the engine and are competing to become partners in the project. This has raised the possibility of a role for Ukraine in the project. A partnership between Ukraine and Turkey in the joint production of engines for the KAAN jet would contribute to the Ukrainian economy and provide Turkey with a reliable and stable partner in strengthening its self-defense. Turkey is also planning to export some KAAN jets to other countries, which could offer an alternative to fighter jets produced and sold by Russia and China. Once the Turks have more KAAN jets and more F-16s in their fleet, they could support Ukraine with second-hand F-16s or serve as a repair and upgrade centre for F-16s owned by Ukraine and other Black Sea countries. Such possibilities are seen as a complete disaster scenario for Russian President Vladimir Putin. But another catastrophic scenario for Putin is for Turkey to use its financial instruments against Russia in a much more violent way. If you remember, Turkish banks withdrew their support for the MIR scheme, a Russian card payment tool for electronic fund transfers. Moscow was using MIR to prevent Russia's exclusion from international credit cards imposed by the West over the invasion of Ukraine. At the time, the Kremlin denounced Washington, accusing it of putting unprecedented pressure on Turkish banks to withdraw from MIR. With this move, Turkey showed that it would also fight Russia in the financial sphere. Now, after the summit between Erdogan and Zelenskyy, it would not be surprising if Turkey makes such a move again. In short, Turkey is an important NATO member with the potential to both support Ukraine militarily and confront Russia on land, sea and air. Its presence in the Black Sea has made Turkey the actor that can impose the toughest buffer against Russia. Erdogan is making good use of these advantages. The Turkish president is also developing positive relations with US leader Donald Trump, trying to chart the best course for how peace talks should proceed. The fact that Erdogan and Trump have been on good terms lately is one of the details pointing to the fact that the US will be on the side of steering the peace process with Turkey and EU members. Erdogan has said that EU members should also be involved in the negotiations. However, it is not clear at the moment what the EU will do in this regard. The EU wing wants Ukraine to be supported militarily and wants Russia to be completely defeated. Europe has problems with the US on this issue, but these problems may be solved in the future. Turkey's strategy is clear. The Ankara government is preparing for a peace process that it can carry out together with the US while preserving Ukraine's territorial